The signal was old, so old that the computer almost deleted it as noise. It came through the sensors like a whisper from a dead world, weak and broken after traveling through the empty spaces between stars for over 400 years. Captain stood on the bridge of the human exploration vessel Iron Wake. She was a tall woman with short black hair and tired eyes. She had been in space for 12 years, and she had seen many strange things, but she had never heard a signal like this one. "What is that?" she asked. Her communications officer, a young man named Ho, looked at his screen with confusion on his face. He adjusted the frequency and ran it through the translation system. The computer worked for a few seconds, then showed the results. "It is an SOS, Captain," Ho said. "A distress call, but the language is very old. The computer says it matches the language database." The bridge went quiet. Everyone knew that name. They were a species that had disappeared from the galaxy 400 years ago. They had been a peaceful people, known for their art and their music. Then they were gone. No one knew what happened to them. Some said they died in a war. Others said they ran away to another galaxy. Most people believed they were simply extinct. "They have been dead for centuries," said Lieutenant Ho from the navigation station. He was an older man with gray in his hair and doubt in his voice. "This must be some kind of old recording, a ghost signal bouncing around space." Did not answer right away. She walked closer to the main screen and looked at the data. The signal was weak, yes, but it was not just bouncing, it was repeating. Every 47 seconds the same message played again. Someone had set it to repeat on purpose. "Ho, can you clean up the audio?" she asked. "I can try, Captain." The young officer worked his controls. Static filled the bridge, then slowly became clearer. A voice emerged from the noise. It was high and soft, the voice of the... The translation appeared on the screen as the voice spoke. "This is the planet Prime. We are under attack. Our cities are burning, our people are dying. We send this message to anyone who can hear. Please help us. Please come. We cannot survive alone. This is our final cry. Please, please do not forget us." The message ended, then it began again. Felt something cold move through her chest. She had heard distress calls before. She had answered some of them, but this one was different. This one had been calling for help for 400 years, and no one had answered. "Where is the signal coming from?" she asked. Ho checked his charts. "The nebula, Sector 77 Delta. It is about 3 weeks away at maximum speed." "That is deep in contested space," said Commander Bin, the ship's second officer. She was a serious woman who always thought about danger first. "The and the have been fighting in that region for as long as anyone can remember. We would be entering a war zone." Knew this. Everyone knew about the endless war between the and the. Two great empires fighting over territory that neither of them really needed. The war had been going on for 500 years. Ships that entered that space often did not come back. "We should report this to command," Bin continued. "Let them decide what to do." Nodded. "Ho, open a channel to Earth Fleet Command." The communication took time. Space was big and messages had to travel far. After 2 hours the response came. It was a text message, short and official. "Signal noted. Origin point is an active war zone. Risk assessment extreme. Recommendation: do not pursue. Continue current mission. End message." Read the message twice. She understood the logic. The Iron Wake was an exploration ship, not a warship. They had good shields and some weapons, but they were not built for combat. Going into the war zone would be dangerous. And the signal was old, very old. Whoever sent it was probably long dead. But something in would not let go of that voice. That soft, desperate voice asking for help, calling into the darkness for 400 years, waiting for someone to answer. "Captain," Bin was watching her. "Command has given their recommendation." "I know what Command said." "Then we should continue our mission. We are supposed to survey the Helix system. That is where we should go. Looked at her crew. There were 47 people on the Iron Wake, humans from Earth and the colony worlds. They had families waiting for them. They had lives to return to. She had no right to put them in danger for a ghost signal. But she also knew something else. She knew what it meant to be human. Humans were from Earth, a death world, a planet of storms and predators and endless struggle. Other species in the galaxy called humans because they could not believe anything could survive on such a harsh planet. But humans had done more than survive. They had spread across the stars, and they had done it by refusing to give up, by answering calls that others ignored. Ho said slowly, set a course for Sector 77 Delta. The bridge went silent again. Ben stepped forward. Captain, that is against Command's recommendation. I know. We could be court-martialed. I know that too. Then why? Turned to face her crew. She saw fear in some faces, confusion in others, but she also saw something else, something that looked like hope. Because someone called for help, said, and for 400 years no one answered. I do not know if anyone is still alive out there. I do not know if we can help them even if they are. But I know that I cannot fly away and pretend I did not hear that voice. That is not who I am. That is not who we are. She paused, then continued. I will not order anyone to come with me. If you want to transfer to another ship, I will arrange it at the next station. But I am going to Sector 77 Delta. I am going to find out what happened to the... And if there is anyone left to save, I am going to save them. No one spoke for a long moment. Then Ho, the young communications officer, smiled. I joined the fleet to explore the unknown, he said. This seems like the unknown to me. Ho laughed softly. I am too old to be afraid of a little war zone. Set the course, Captain. I will get us there. One by one, the crew spoke. Some were scared but willing. Some were excited for the adventure. A few had doubts, but none of them asked to leave. By the end, all 47 crew members had agreed to follow into the darkness. Ben was the last to speak. She looked at with hard eyes. You are a fool, she said, but you are a brave fool, and I did not join your crew to run away from danger. I am with you, Captain. Felt warmth in her chest. She nodded to her second officer, then turned to face the main screen. Then let us go answer a call that is 400 years overdue. The Iron Wake turned toward the nebula. Its engines glowed bright blue as it accelerated into the unknown. Around them, the stars seemed cold and distant. Ahead of them, a war zone waited, and somewhere in that chaos, a small voice was still calling for help. 3 weeks later, the ship reached the edge of the nebula. The space here was different. There were clouds of gas and dust that made it hard to see. There were broken pieces of ships floating everywhere, the remains of battles that had happened long ago. And in the distance, there were flashes of light, weapons fire. The war was still going on. Ho looked at his sensors. I am detecting hundreds of ships, Captain, 2 large fleets. They are fighting near a planet on the other side of the nebula. Can you identify them? The computer says they are in warships. Both fleets are massive. I count over 300 vessels on each side. Studied the tactical display. The planet was small and blue, partly hidden by the nebula clouds. It matched the location of the signal. That is Prime, she said quietly. They are fighting over the... But why? Asked Ho. If they are extinct, what is there to fight about? Territory, Ben answered. Position, pride. The do not need a reason to fight. They have been at war for so long that fighting is all they know. Felt anger rise in her throat. 2 empires destroying each other over a planet that belonged to someone else. A peaceful people, caught between giants and crushed. And now, 400 years later, the giants were still fighting over the bones. Take us in, she said. Slow and quiet. I want to reach that planet without being noticed. The Iron Wake moved into the nebula like a ghost. Its systems ran silent, its profile small. The human ship slipped between the clouds of gas and dust. avoiding the main battle areas. The crew watched tensely as ships passed in the distance, too focused on each other to notice the small human vessel. It took 6 hours to cross the nebula. 6 hours of holding their breath, of watching the explosions in the distance, of praying that no one would see them. But finally, they reached the other side. Prime hung in space before them. It was a beautiful planet with blue oceans and green lands, but something was wrong. There were dark patches on the surface, burn marks, cities that had been destroyed long ago and never rebuilt. The scars of the ancient attack were still visible after 400 years. "I am scanning for life signs," said Ho. His voice was tense. His hands moved quickly over the controls, then he stopped. His eyes went wide. "Captain," he said slowly, "I am detecting life signs, underground, thousands of them." Felt her heart jump. "Are you sure?" "Yes, Captain. There are still alive on that planet. They are hiding beneath the surface. They have been hiding there for 400 years. The bridge was silent. No one could believe it. They were not extinct. They had survived, and they were still waiting to be rescued. Looked at the planet on the screen. She thought about that voice, calling for help across the centuries. Someone down there had sent that signal. Someone down there had refused to give up hope. "Then we have work to do," said. "Prepare a landing team. We are going down there." The shuttle dropped through the atmosphere of Prime like a falling stone. Lieutenant Wu sat in the pilot's seat, his hands steady on the controls. Behind him, 8 soldiers checked their weapons and gear. They were the ground team, the first humans to ever touch this world. Sergeant led the team. She was a short woman with strong arms and sharp eyes. She had been a soldier for 15 years. She had fought pirates and rescued hostages and explored dangerous planets. But she had never done anything like this before. No one had. 2 minutes to landing, Wu announced. Looked out the small window. The planet below was but beautiful. She could see the ruins of great cities near the coast. Tall towers that had once touched the sky, now broken and burned. Roads that went nowhere. Bridges that crossed nothing. They had built a great civilization here, and someone had destroyed it all. "What happened here?" asked one of the soldiers, a young man named Wu Jin. "War happened," answered. "Someone wanted what they had, or they wanted to take this home, so they burned it all down." "But who, the or the?" "Does it matter? They are both fighting over the ashes now. Neither of them cared enough to help the people who lived here." The shuttle shook as it hit lower atmosphere. Wu guided it toward a flat area near the edge of a ruined city. The sensors showed the strongest life signs coming from beneath this area. Whatever they had built underground, the entrance was somewhere nearby. "Landing in 30 seconds, Wu said. "I am reading no hostile contacts on the surface, but keep your guards up. We do not know what we might find." The shuttle touched down on cracked stone. The engines went quiet, stood and checked her rifle one more time. "Listen to me," she said to her team. "We are here to make contact with survivors. We do not know how they will react to us. They have been hiding for 400 years. They might be scared. They might be hostile. We treat them with respect. We do not fire unless fired upon. Understand?" The soldiers nodded. They were good people, trained and ready, trusted them with her life. "Then let us go meet the—" The shuttle door opened. Bright sunlight flooded in, stepped out onto the surface of an alien world. The air was cool and thin. It smelled like dust and old fire. Around her, the ruins of the city stretched in all directions. Empty buildings with no windows, streets covered in sand and debris. It was like walking through a graveyard. "This way," Wu said from behind her. He held a scanner that pointed toward a large building in the distance. "The life signs are coming from beneath that structure." The team moved through the ruins in formation. They walked carefully, watching for any sign of danger, but the city was empty. No animals, no birds, no sounds except their own footsteps and the wind. After 20 minutes, they reached the building Wu had indicated. It was larger than the others, with thick walls and a heavy door. The door was sealed, but there was a crack in the wall nearby. It was small, but big enough for a person to fit through. Someone has been using this entrance, observed. She could see marks in the dust, footprints that came and went. They come up to the surface sometimes. Maybe to look for food, Wu Jin suggested, or to check if the war is still happening. Or to check if anyone answered their signal. Felt sadness in her heart. She imagined the coming up year after year, century after century, hopping to see rescue ships in the sky, and seeing nothing but war. We go in, she decided. Stay close, keep your lights on. The team entered through the crack in the wall. Inside, they found a stairway leading down into darkness. The stairs were narrow and made of some kind of stone. They went down for a long time, deeper and deeper into the earth. After 10 minutes of descending, they reached the bottom. There was a tunnel ahead, lit by soft blue lights built into the walls. The lights were still working after 400 years. They had built things to last. I am reading life signs ahead, Wu whispered. Many of them, we are close. Nodded and led the team forward. The tunnel opened into a larger space after a few hundred meters, and what they saw made them all stop in wonder. It was an underground city, a real city built in a massive cave beneath the surface. There were buildings and streets and open spaces. Blue lights glowed everywhere, giving the city a peaceful, dreamlike appearance. And there were people. Thousands of people going about their lives, shopping in markets, walking with children, sitting in parks. They were smaller than humans, with pale blue skin and large dark eyes. Their bodies were thin and delicate, with long fingers and soft features. They wore simple clothing in bright colors, and as the humans appeared at the edge of their city, they all stopped and stared. For a long moment, no one moved. The humans looked at the humans. The silence was heavy and strange. Then a child screamed. It was a small child, no bigger than a human toddler. The child pointed at the humans and cried out in fear. The sound broke the silence. Suddenly, they were running. Parents grabbed children and fled. People dropped what they were carrying and ran for the buildings. In seconds, the streets were empty. Wait, called out. We are not here to hurt you, we came to help. But they did not stop. They had lived in fear for too long. Strangers meant danger. Strangers meant death. They did not know what humans were, but they knew they were afraid. Lowered her weapon and stepped forward slowly. Her team stayed behind her, watching and waiting. She held up her empty hands, showing she meant no harm. We heard your signal, she said loudly. The SOS you sent 400 years ago. We came to answer it. We came to help. The streets remained empty, but could see faces in the windows, eyes watching from the shadows. They were still there. They were just too scared to come out. Then an old voice spoke from somewhere nearby. You came to answer the signal. Turned toward the voice. An elderly stepped out from behind a pillar. He was bent with age, his blue skin faded to almost white. He walked with a staff, and his dark eyes studied the humans with a mixture of hope and disbelief. I am Sergeant of the human ship Iron Wake, said gently. We detected your distress signal and came to investigate. We did not know anyone was still alive here. The old came closer. He moved slowly, like someone who was afraid this was all a dream. I am Elder Boram, he said. I am the leader of what remains of our people. For 400 years we have sent that signal. For 400 years we have waited. No one ever came. The galaxy forgot us. We did not forget you, said. We just did not know. The signal was weak. It took a long time to reach anyone. Boram stopped in front of her. He was so short that his head barely reached her chest. But his eyes were deep and old, filled with centuries of suffering and hope. You are he said. I have heard stories about your kind, creatures from a harsh planet who fear nothing. I always thought the stories were just legends, but here you are. We are humans, said, from Earth, and we are here to help you." Boram was quiet for a long moment. Tears began to fall from his large, dark eyes. He dropped his staff and took hands in his own. His grip was weak, but his emotion was strong. 400 years, he whispered. 400 years of hiding, of losing hope, of watching our children grow old underground, never seeing the sun. And you came. You actually came. Felt her own eyes grow wet. She knelt down so she was at the elder's level. "I am sorry we took so long," she said. Boram shook his head. "You came. That is all that matters. They came for us." Around them, they began to emerge from their hiding places. They came slowly, carefully, still afraid but also curious. They gathered in the streets and stared at the humans with wonder. Parents held children and pointed. Young people whispered to each other. The mood was changing from fear to something else, something like hope. Stood and addressed the growing crowd. "My captain is in orbit above your planet. We have a ship that can take you away from here. But first, we need to understand your situation. How many of you are there? What do you need?" Boram wiped his eyes and tried to compose himself. "There are about 12,000 of us left. When the war began, there were millions, but the attacks killed most of our people. Those who survived fled underground. We built this city in secret, hiding from the warships above. Over the centuries, our numbers have slowly fallen. Disease, accidents, despair, but we have survived." "And the war above?" Wu asked. "The Yin are still fighting over your planet." "They have always been fighting," Boram said bitterly. "They destroyed our world because we were in their way. We were neutral in their conflict. We wanted no part of their war. But our planet was in a strategic location. Both sides wanted it. So they burned our cities and killed our people. When we hid underground, they forgot about us. They only cared about fighting each other." Felt anger rise in her chest. They had done nothing wrong. They were just peaceful people living on their own world, and two great empires had crushed them like insects, then continued fighting over their corpse. "We will get you out of here," promised. "All of you. Our ship is not big enough to carry everyone, but we can call for more ships. The human fleet will come." Boram looked at her with fresh tears in his eyes. "Why?" he asked. "Why would your people help us? We have nothing to offer. We are just survivors, broken and weak. What do you gain by saving us?" Thought about the question. It was a fair one. In the galaxy, most species only helped others when there was something to gain: trade, territory, power. But that was not why she was here. That was not why any of them were here. "Because someone called for help," she said simply. "And we heard them. That is reason enough." Boram stared at her for a long moment. Then he smiled. It was a small smile, fragile and uncertain, but it was real. "The stories about said you were monsters," he said. "Strong and savage, dangerous and cruel. But looking at you now, I think the stories were wrong. You are not monsters. You are something else entirely." "What are we then?" asked. Boram squeezed her hands gently. "You are hope," he said. "Hope that we thought died 400 years ago." Smiled back at him. Then she activated her communicator. "Captain, this is Sergeant. We have made contact with There are approximately 12,000 survivors. They are ready to be evacuated. But Captain, there is something else. The Yin do not know these people are here. Once we start moving them, both fleets will notice. We are going to have a problem." The communicator crackled. Then's voice came through. "Understood, Sergeant. We will deal with the problem. Start organizing the survivors for evacuation. The Iron Wake is coming down to help. And tell them that help has finally arrived. Tell them they are not alone anymore." Looked at the thousands of gathered around her. Their eyes were filled with hope for the first time in 400 years. "I think they already know, Captain." The underground city of the was alive with movement. For the first time in 400 years, there was something other than fear in the air. There was hope, there was purpose, and there was the promise of escape. And her team worked alongside to organize the evacuation. It was not easy. 12,000 people had to be moved to the surface, then transported to safety. And they had to do it quickly before the and noticed what was happening. Elder Bahram guided through the underground city. He showed her the different neighborhoods where families lived. He showed her the farms where they grew food under artificial lights. He showed her the schools where children learned about a world they had never seen. We tried to keep our culture alive, Bahram explained as they walked. We taught our children about the surface, about the sun and the sky and the oceans. Many of them have never seen these things, but they know about them. They dream about them. Looked at the children playing in a small park. They were chasing each other and laughing. They did not understand what was happening. They did not know that their whole world was about to change. "How did you survive for so long?" she asked. Bahram sighed. "It was not easy. In the early years, many people died. We did not have enough food or medicine. Disease spread quickly in the underground, but we learned. We adapted. We built systems to grow food and purify water. We found ways to generate power from the heat deep in the planet. Slowly, we created a life for ourselves down here. But you never gave up hope of rescue." "Never," Bahram's voice was firm. "Every generation we passed down the story. We told our children that one day someone would hear our signal, someone would come. Many people stopped believing. Many people said we were foolish to hope. But we kept the signal running, every day for 400 years, and finally someone heard." Felt the weight of those words. 400 years of faith. 400 years of waiting in the dark, hopping for light. She could not imagine that kind of patience, that kind of strength. "Your people are stronger than you know," she said. Bahram smiled sadly. "We are not strong, we are just stubborn. They have always been stubborn." A young woman approached them. She was tall for her species, with bright eyes and a confident stride. She wore simple work clothes and carried a tablet computer. "Elder Bahram," she said, "the supply teams have finished the count. We have enough food and water for the journey, but many of our people are sick or elderly. They will need help moving to the surface." "Thank you," Bahram said. He turned to, "This is my granddaughter. She has been helping organize our community for many years. She will be valuable in coordinating the evacuation." Looked at with curious eyes, "You are the captain." "I am Sergeant. The captain is still on the ship." Sergeant tested the word. "You came from Earth, the death world." "Yes, it is our home planet." "I have heard stories about Earth. Giant predators, violent storms, poison in the plants and animals. How did your species survive in such a place?" Thought about the question. It was one she had heard before from other species. Many aliens could not understand how humans had evolved on such a dangerous world. "We learned to work together," she said. "Alone we are weak, but together we are strong. We protect each other. We take care of each other. That is how we survived." Nodded slowly. "That sounds like the way. We are not strong alone either, but together we have lasted 400 years. Then we have something in common." A smile crossed face. It was the first genuine smile had seen from a who was not crying. "Maybe we do," said. The next few hours were busy. The Iron Wake descended from orbit and landed in a clear area outside the ruined city. It was a risk. The ship was now visible to anyone who might be watching, but they needed its cargo space and medical facilities to help with the evacuation. Captain came down to the surface to meet with Elder Bahram. The two leaders stood in the entrance to the underground city and talked about plans and possibilities. "We can carry about 3,000 people on the Iron Wake," explained. "We will take the most vulnerable first, the sick, the elderly, the children. Then we will make trips back for the rest." "How long will that take?" Bahram asked. "Several days, maybe longer if we have trouble." Bahram looked worried. "The end will notice. They will see your ship coming and going. They will investigate." "We know. We are preparing for that." "Preparing how? You have one ship, they have hundreds." His face was calm but could see the tension beneath the surface. The captain knew the odds. They all did, but she did not show fear. "We have something they do not have," said. "What is that?" "A reason to fight. They are fighting each other over territory, over pride, over a war that no one remembers starting. We are fighting for your people. That makes us stronger." Boram did not look convinced. "I hope you are right, Captain, but the End are ancient and powerful. They have weapons that can destroy planets." "So do we." His voice was quiet but firm. "We just choose not to use them." The first group of evacuees began moving toward the surface. They were families with young children, elderly who could barely walk, and sick people carried on stretchers. The ground team guided them through the tunnels and up the long stairway to the surface. For many of them, it was the first time seeing daylight. The children stopped and stared at the sky with wonder in their eyes. The elders wept at the sight of the sun. Even the ruined city around them seemed beautiful after centuries of underground darkness. Walked beside as they supervised the evacuation. "I never thought I would see this," said softly. "I was born underground. I lived my whole life underground. I thought I would die underground. But now," she looked up at the sky and let out a long breath, "it is more beautiful than the stories said." "There are many more beautiful places," told her. "Forests and mountains and oceans, worlds full of life and color. You will see them all." "Will we?" His voice held a trace of doubt. "The war is still happening. The fleets are still fighting above us. How will we escape through that?" Did not have a good answer. The truth was, she did not know how they would escape. The human fleet was far away. Help would not arrive for weeks. Until then, they were alone with one ship against two armies. But she had learned something in her years as a soldier. Sometimes, the answer only came when you started moving. Sometimes, you had to take the first step into the unknown and trust that you would find a way. "We will figure it out," she said. "That is what we do." The first shuttle lifted off from the surface, carrying 100 toward the Iron Wake in orbit. Watched it rise into the sky and disappear into the clouds. 100 down, 11,900 to go. Lieutenant Wu approached her with a worried expression. "Sergeant, we have a problem." "What kind of problem?" "They have noticed our ship. One of their patrol vessels has broken off from the main fleet. It is coming to investigate." Stomach tightened. "How long until it gets here?" "About 2 hours." 2 hours. Not enough time to evacuate everyone, not even close. Activated her communicator. "Captain, are you aware of the incoming ship?" His voice came back immediately. "Yes, we are tracking it. I am preparing a response." "What kind of response?" "Diplomatic, I hope, but be ready for the other kind." Looked at her team. They were tired from hours of helping with the evacuation, but they were soldiers. They would fight if they had to. "You heard the captain," she said. "Keep moving the evacuees, but stay alert. We might have company soon." The next 2 hours were tense. The shuttles continued going back and forth, carrying to safety, but everyone kept looking at the sky, waiting for the enemy to arrive. When the ship finally appeared, it came out of the clouds like a dark shadow. It was much larger than the Iron Wake, with heavy armor and visible weapon ports. It hovered above the ruined city and broadcast a message on all frequencies. "Unknown vessel, this is the warship crusher of enemies. You are trespassing in territory. Identify yourself and state your purpose, or you will be destroyed." His response came quickly. "This is captain of the human vessel Iron Wake. We are conducting a humanitarian mission. We are evacuating refugees from this planet." There was a pause. Then the voice came back, sounding confused. "Refugees? What refugees? This planet is dead." "This planet has 12,000 living people on it. They have been hiding underground for 400 years. We are taking them to safety." Another pause, longer this time. "That is impossible. They were destroyed centuries ago. Our records confirm this. Your records are wrong, they survived, and now we are rescuing them. The ship did not respond immediately. Could imagine the confusion on their bridge. They had been fighting over this planet for centuries, believing it was empty. Now they were learning that the original owners were still alive. When the commander spoke again, his voice was harsh. This planet belongs to the Empire. Any inhabitants are property. You will cease your evacuation immediately and surrender the refugees to our custody. His voice came back, calm but hard. No. Excuse me. I said no. These people are not your property. They never were. You invaded their world, destroyed their civilization, and forced them to hide underground for 4 centuries. They do not belong to you. They belong to themselves, and they are leaving with us. You are in no position to refuse. We can destroy your ship with 1 shot. Maybe, but you will not. And why not? Because you are curious. You want to know why humans came all this way for a species you thought was extinct. You want to know what makes us different from you. And deep down, you want to know if we will actually fight to protect them. Silence on the channel. The ship hung in the air, weapons powered but not firing. Continued. We will continue our evacuation. You can watch. You can report to your commanders. You can even bring your whole fleet here, but we will not stop. We will not leave. And we will not abandon these people. That is the human way. Held her breath. The moment stretched on. Then slowly the ship began to rise. It climbed higher into the atmosphere, still watching but no longer threatening. Wu let out a relieved breath. They are backing off. For now, said, they will be back and they will bring friends. Then we better work faster. The evacuation continued. More shuttles, more rising into the sky, more hope growing in the hearts of a people who had waited 400 years for this moment. But above them the ship watched, and beyond the nebula 2 vast fleets continued their endless war. The humans had bought some time, but the real battle was still coming. The fleet arrived first. 30 warships emerged from the nebula clouds like angry beasts, their weapons glowing with power. They surrounded Prime and formed a blockade that nothing could pass through. Captain stood on the bridge of the Iron Wake and watched them come. Her crew was tense. Her ship was small, but her resolve was iron. Captain, Ho reported, we are being hailed by the flagship. Put it through. The main screen flickered and a commander appeared. He was a massive creature covered in thick brown scales and armor. His eyes were small and cruel, set deep in a flat, brutal face. Behind him, other officers moved about their stations. Human Captain, they said, I am War Master of the Empire. You have been given 1 chance to surrender. You refused. Now I am here to take what belongs to us by force. They do not belong to you, replied calmly. Everything in space belongs to the Empire. Your ignorance of this fact does not change it. They were here before you came. This is their world. You are the invaders. Made a sound that might have been a laugh. Invaders, we are conquerors. There is a difference. The strong take from the weak. This is the way of the universe. Your species is young. You do not understand. We understand perfectly. We just choose differently. The War Master's eyes narrowed. You cannot win this fight, human. You have 1 ship. I have 30. Surrender the refugees and leave, or you will die here. Was quiet for a moment. She looked at her crew. They were afraid. She could see it in their eyes, but they were also ready. They knew what they had signed up for when they followed her into this place. War Master, she said slowly, I am going to tell you something about humans, something that might help you understand why we are here. I do not care about human stories. Then I will keep it short, stepped closer to the screen. Humans come from Earth, a death world, a planet so dangerous that most species in the galaxy cannot believe we survived, but we did survive, not because we were the strongest or the fastest we survived because we took care of each other. When someone fell, we picked them up. When someone was in danger, we protected them. When someone called for help, we answered." She paused, letting the words sink in. 400 years ago, they sent a call for help. No one answered. No one cared. The galaxy forgot about them, but we heard their signal. We came. And now you are asking us to abandon them, to leave them to be your slaves or worse. Shook her head slowly. That is not who we are. That is not what we do, so you can threaten us. You can surround us with your fleet. You can destroy our ship and kill every one of us, but we will not abandon not today, not ever. The bridge was silent. The War Master stared at with an expression she could not read. Anger, confusion, something else. Before he could respond, another signal came through. Ho's face went pale. "Captain, the fleet is approaching. 40 ships. They are coming from the other side of the planet." Felt her heart sink. 2 fleets now, 70 warships. The odds had just gotten much worse. The fleet took position opposite They were different from in every way. Where they were large and heavy, they were thin and fast. Their ships were sleek and silver, like blades cutting through space, and they had their own message to send. A commander appeared on a second screen. She was tall and elegant, with pale gray skin and eyes that gleamed like metal. Her voice was cold and precise. "Scum, you dare claim this world while the Empire watches. Prime is in the disputed zone. Neither of us has the right to claim it exclusively." War Master snarled. "They have no honor. You wait for us to do the work, then swoop in to steal the prize. We take what we deserve, just as you do." The 2 commanders began arguing with each other, their fleets moving into battle formations. The endless war was about to explode again, right above the planet where 12,000 innocent people were still waiting to be rescued. Saw her opportunity. "Stop," she said loudly. Both commanders turned to look at her. Their expressions showed surprise and annoyance. "The human speaks out of turn," the commander said. "You have no voice in this matter." "I have every voice in this matter, because while you 2 fight over who gets to claim this planet, there are living people down there. People who have been trapped for 400 years. People who just want to leave and find a new home. They are not your property. They are not your prize. They are survivors of a war that you started." The commander tilted her head. "We started. They attacked this world first." "Only because you were planning to," shouted. "We were not." "You were." "Enough." His voice cut through the noise. "I do not care who started it. I care about the 12,000 people who have been paying the price for 500 years of your stupidity." Both commanders looked stunned. No one had ever spoken to them that way. Their fleets controlled vast territories. Their weapons could destroy planets. And this one human in her one small ship was calling them stupid. "Listen to me carefully," continued. "They are under human protection now. We are evacuating them from this planet. You can continue your war after we are gone. You can fight over the empty rocks and dead cities for another 500 years if you want. But you will not touch these people. If either of you fires on my ship or on any of the evacuation shuttles, it will be considered an act of war against the entire human species." War Master laughed harshly. "An act of war against humanity. You are one ship. We are not afraid of you." "You should be." His voice was flat and cold. "Because humans do not forget, we do not forgive, and we do not stop. If you kill us here today, more will come. Thousands of ships, millions of soldiers, and they will not come to negotiate. They will come to make sure this never happens again." She let the threat hang in the air. "You have been fighting each other for 500 years. In that time, what have you gained? Nothing. Your empires are weaker than they were when you started. Your people are tired of war. Your resources are drained. Do you really want to add humans to your list of enemies? Do you really want to fight on another front while you are still fighting each other?" The commander spoke slowly. "The human makes an interesting point." "The human is bluffing," said, but there was doubt in his voice now. "Am I?" asked. "Look at your sensors, tell me what you see." Both commanders checked their displays. The Iron Wake was just one ship, small and alone, but the sensors showed something else. The ship was broadcasting on all frequencies, sending data back toward human space. "Everything that happens here is being recorded," explained. "Every word, every action, every shot fired. The moment our ship is destroyed, that data reaches Earth, and then the full weight of humanity comes down on whoever is responsible." The fleets were silent, 70 warships held in check by the threat of a war they could not afford. On the planet below, the evacuation continued. Shuttle after shuttle rose from the surface, carrying to safety. Watched them go, her heart pounding. She could see the fleets above, frozen in a standoff. She did not know how long it would last. Elder Boram stood beside her. His old eyes watched the sky with a mixture of fear and hope. "Will they let us go?" he asked. "I do not know," admitted, "but we are not stopping either way. Your captain is very brave." "She is human. It is the same thing." Boram smiled slightly. "I am beginning to understand what that means." Above them, the standoff continued. The fleets held their positions, watching each other and watching the human ship. Neither wanted to be the first to move. Neither wanted to start a war with humanity while the other watched. And in that frozen moment, the evacuation went on. More than 5,000 had been moved to the Iron Wake. The ship was crowded now, every space filled with refugees, but there were still thousands more waiting underground. Captain contacted directly. "Sergeant, we are running out of time. The fleets are holding for now, but it will not last. How many more can you move?" "We are going as fast as we can, Captain, but there are still about 7,000 people underground. Moving them all will take at least another day." "We do not have a day. The moment one of these fleets decides to move, everything falls apart." Looked at the crowds of streaming toward the shuttles. They were moving as fast as they could, but it was not fast enough. "What do we do, Captain?" There was a long pause. Then's voice came back, calm and determined. "We buy more time, whatever it takes. Keep the evacuation moving. I will handle the fleets." Did not know what the captain was planning, but she trusted her. She had followed into this madness, and she would follow her out of it. "Understood, Captain. We will not stop." The shuttles continued to fly. The fleets continued to wait. And somewhere in the darkness between the stars, humanity's reputation spread a little further. They had drawn a line in the stars, and for now, no one was willing to cross it. The standoff held for 18 hours. 18 hours of tension, of watching, of waiting for someone to blink. The fleets circled each other like predators, neither willing to attack while the human ship watched. And all the while, the shuttles kept flying, carrying more and more to safety. But on the 19th hour, everything changed. An officer on one of the smaller ships made a mistake. Maybe he was nervous. Maybe he was tired. Maybe he just hated the too much to hold back any longer. Whatever the reason, he fired. One shot, streaking across space toward a cruiser. The cruiser's shields absorbed the blast. No damage was done, but the response was immediate. 3 ships returned fire. The fleet reacted, and suddenly the endless war was raging again, right above Prime. Captain watched the chaos unfold on her screens. Weapons fire filled the space around the planet. Ships exploded. Debris scattered in all directions. The careful balance she had maintained for almost a day collapsed in seconds. "All hands battle stations," she ordered. "We are not leaving yet, not without everyone." The Iron Wake was a small ship, not built for combat, but it was fast, and its shields were strong. Pushed the ship into motion, dodging between the warring fleets while her crew worked desperately to continue the evacuation. On the surface, felt the ground shake as weapons fire struck the upper atmosphere. The sky turned red and orange with distant explosions. Panic began to spread among the waiting. "Keep moving," shouted. "Do not stop, get to the shuttles." Elder Boram helped organize the crowds. his old voice steady despite his fear. Ran between groups, directing people and calming the frightened. The evacuation teams worked harder than they ever had before. But there were still 3,000 underground. 3,000 people who would not make it unless something changed. The Iron Wake took a glancing hit from a stray shot. The ship shuddered, and warning lights flashed across the bridge. "Shields at 60%, Commander Bin reported. "We cannot take many more hits like that." "Then we do not take more hits," said. She pushed the ship through a gap between two fighting cruisers, using her smaller size to avoid the larger weapons. Ho looked up from his console. "Captain, I am picking up new signals. Multiple contacts approaching from outside the nebula." Felt her heart freeze. More enemies, more fleets to fight. "Identify them." Ho's face changed. His eyes went wide. A smile spread across his face. "Captain, they are human ships, 30 of them. It is the relief fleet from Earth." Could not believe it. The message she had sent weeks ago had reached Earth. Someone had listened. Someone had come. The human fleet emerged from the nebula like a wall of steel. 30 warships, much larger and more powerful than the Iron Wake. They spread out in a defensive formation around Prime, their weapons powered and ready. A new voice came over the communications channel. It was deep and confident. "This is Admiral Sung Ho of the Earth Defense Fleet. Iron Wake, report your status." Felt tears forming in her eyes. "Admiral, this is Captain. We are conducting an evacuation of refugees. We have approximately 3,000 more to transport. We could use some help." "Help has arrived, Captain. All ships form a protective perimeter around the evacuation zone. Any vessel that fires on a shuttle or refugee transport will be destroyed immediately." The human fleet moved into position. The ships, already battered from fighting each other, faced a new threat. Fresh, powerful, and very angry. War Master's face appeared on the screen. He looked exhausted and frustrated. "Humans, you brought reinforcements. This changes nothing. You cannot stop our war." Admiral Sung Ho's response was calm but firm. "We are not here to stop your war. We are here to protect innocent people. You may continue killing each other after we leave, but right now, you will hold your fire and let us complete our mission. And if we refuse, then we will defend ourselves. And I promise you, War Master, you do not want to test human resolve today." Stared at the screen for a long moment. Then he made a sound of disgust and cut the channel. The fleet began to pull back, retreating to a safer distance. The commander was more practical. She assessed the new situation and made a quick decision. "We have no quarrel with humanity today. Complete your evacuation. We will wait." The battle stopped. The fleets held their positions, and the final phase of the rescue began. With the human fleet providing cover, the evacuation accelerated rapidly. Shuttles flew constantly, carrying hundreds with each trip. The new ships opened their cargo bays and welcomed the refugees aboard. Medical teams treated the sick and injured. Food and water were distributed to everyone. Watched the last groups emerge from underground. Among them was Elder Boram, supported by. They walked slowly toward the waiting shuttle, looking around at the sky one last time. "I never thought I would see this day," Boram said quietly. "I spent my whole life preparing our people for this moment, and now it is here." "How do you feel?" asked. The old smiled. "Free. For the first time in 400 years I feel free." Helped her grandfather into the shuttle. She paused at the door and looked back at. "Thank you," she said, "for everything. We will never forget what you did." "We did what anyone should have done," replied. "You called for help, we answered. It is that simple." "No," shook her head. "It is not simple. Many species heard our signal over the centuries. Only humans came. That is not simple. That is extraordinary." She disappeared into the shuttle. The door closed, and the last vessel carrying refugees rose into the sky. The evacuation was complete. All 12,000 had been saved. Captain stood on the bridge of the Iron Wake, watching the human fleet form up for departure. The fleets hung back, watching but not interfering. They would resume their war soon enough. But for now, they simply watched the leave with their prize. Admiral Sung Ho's face appeared on the screen. He was an older man with gray hair and kind eyes. "Captain, you did a remarkable thing here. Command was not happy when you ignored their orders, but I think they will forgive you." Smiled tiredly. "I hope so, Admiral. It seemed like the right thing to do." It was. Sometimes the right thing is the hardest thing, but that does not mean we should not do it. He paused. "The people owe you their lives. Their civilization will survive because of you." "They owe us nothing," said. "They called for help, we answered. That is what humans do." The Admiral nodded slowly. "Yes, I suppose it is." The human fleet turned away from Prime and began its journey home. Behind them, the fleets resumed their endless war, fighting over a dead world that no longer mattered. But they were gone, they were safe, and they would never forget. Months later, they settled on a new world provided by the human government. It was a beautiful planet with blue skies and green forests. The climate was mild. The land was fertile. And best of all, there was no war. The survivors built new cities and started new lives. They planted gardens and opened schools. Children who had spent their entire lives underground now played in open fields under the warm sun. Elder Boram did not live to see the full rebuilding. He passed away peacefully 6 months after the rescue, surrounded by his family and his people. But before he died, he left a message that would be passed down through generations of. "Waited 400 years in the darkness," he wrote. "We sent our call into the void and heard only silence. We began to lose hope, but hope never truly dies. It waits sometimes for centuries until someone finally answers. And in our darkest hour, someone did answer. They came, not for conquest, not for profit, not for glory. They came because we needed help. They came because it was right. Remember this always. Remember that when all others forgot us, humanity remembered. When all others abandoned us, humanity came. And when all others would have let us die, humanity chose to save us." The message was carved into stone in the center of the new capital city. Every child learned it by heart, and the story spread across the galaxy. Though the creatures from the harsh planet, the species that other aliens called dangerous and savage, they had crossed a war zone, faced 2 empires, and risked everything to save a people they had never met. Other species heard the story and wondered what it meant. Some feared the humans even more. Some began to see them differently. And some, for the first time, began to hope that maybe the galaxy was not as cold and cruel as they had believed. Captain returned to her duties after a brief leave. She received a formal reprimand for disobeying orders, followed immediately by a medal for extraordinary service. The contradiction amused her. Command had been right that she took a risk, but she had also been right that it was worth taking. Sergeant continued to serve on ground missions. She never talked much about the rescue, but sometimes, late at night, she would look up at the stars and remember the faces of the people she had helped save. And somewhere in a new city on a new world, a young woman named became a leader of her people. She dedicated her life to building bridges between species, to making sure that no one would ever be forgotten again. She often thought about the human sergeant who had walked into their underground city and said, "We came to help." Such simple words, but they had changed everything. The SOS had gone unanswered for centuries. Empires had fought and forgotten. Hope had nearly died, but in the end the call was heard. They came, and 12,000 lives were saved. Because that is what humans do. They answer calls that others ignore. They fight battles that others avoid. They care about strangers they have never met. And in a galaxy full of war and indifference, that made them something special. Something extraordinary. Something worth believing in.